Starting next week, we're going to be getting the Adamant Time Event, and this event is going to feature a bunch of Pokemon that we haven't seen in a while, and a couple of other Pokemon that you probably won't see in a while after this event ends. In this video, I'm going to be talking about each and every single one of the event spawns, and talking about their relevance in Pokemon Go. Alright, so let's get right into it. Okay, how's it going everyone? It's me, it's Jinsula. I hope you're having a good day and welcome to today's Pokemon Go video. Today we're going to be talking about the Adamant Time Event. Now, I've already covered the details of this event in a previous video, but today I wanted to put a spotlight on all of the event spawns, as well as the Pokemon that you can get in field research tasks and raid battles. There's actually quite a lot of Pokemon here that we haven't seen in a long time, and I do predict that there's also going to be Pokemon that we won't see for a while. So this is actually a very key event, because it's going to feature Pokemon that you will want to catch. So let's go over the event wild spawns first and foremost. Just to recap, these are the event spawns that you're going to be seeing: Bulbasaur, Charmander, Squirtle, Vulpix, Oddish, Ponyta, Krabby, Voltorb, Coughing, Rhyhorn, Goldeen, as well as Dratini. Now, every single one of these Pokemon are basically from the Kanto region, but not a lot of them are going to be relevant in Pokemon Go, but there's a handful that you will want to pay attention to. First and foremost, let's talk about Bulbasaur. So this Pokemon fully evolves into Venusaur, and that could be a Pokemon that could prove to be useful within the Go Battle League, especially in the Great League and Ultra League. Now, when it comes to the Great League, Venusaur could actually be a great backup to Skarmory, which is currently the #1 Pokemon in that meta. There's going to be a lot of Pokemon that are going to be strong against Skarmory, that are going to be weak against Venusaur, so you can have a very powerful 1-2 punch with this Pokemon. And then Charmander is of course a Pokemon that fully evolves into Charizard, which is a very solid Pokemon for both PvP as well as PvE. In PvP, Charizard is always going to be relevant within the Ultra League, and it can be really good in the Great League if you built it correctly. But Charizard is also a very powerful Pokemon for PvE, mainly because it has very powerful Mega Evolutions. Either Mega Charizard X or Charizard Y is going to be really strong when it comes to Fire-type raid damage. So if you want yourself a really good Pokemon for Fire-type raid damage, then Charizard is one you will want to invest in. Now, when it comes to Squirtle, Vulpix, Oddish, and Ponyta, none of these Pokemon are relevant in any way. I guess the case can be made for Vulpix that you can collect a bunch of Vulpix candy for when you eventually get a PvP IV Alolan Ninetales, but outside of that, these Pokemon are basically going to be trash to your Pokemon. But when it comes to Krabby, I think this Pokemon is quite underrated, because when it comes to Kingler, it can actually be a very decent budget water-type raid attacker. Something that people are not aware of is that Crabhammer does a lot of water-type raid damage. So if you can get yourself a Shadow Kingler in the future, you could possibly get yourself one of the top raid attackers when it comes to water types. And then Voltorb evolves into Electrode, which is actually a sleeper within the Go Battle League. I really do think that Electrode is kind of underrated, especially right now with Pokemon like Skarmory being #1. Electrode could be a pocket pick that not a lot of players will be expecting. Coughing is unfortunately not relevant, but Rhyhorn is one of those Pokemon that you should actually care about. You can currently get Shadow Rhyhorn from Team Go Rocket Battles, and Shadow Rhyperior is going to be phenomenal for both PvE and PvP content. So make sure you're collecting a bunch of Rhyhorns during this event, because amassing a bunch of Rhyhorn candy is definitely going to benefit you. Goldeen is of course another trash tier Pokemon, but Dratini is actually pretty relevant and will stay relevant for the longest time. Just like with Rhyhorn, you can get yourself a Shadow Dratini through Team Go Rocket leader battles, and that is a Pokemon that is going to evolve into Shadow Dragonite, which is one of the top picks for both PvE and PvP. If you want to get ahead in the Master League, for example, then you will want to invest in a really good Shadow Dragonite. And getting a Shadow Pokemon fully evolved and maxed out is incredibly difficult considering the increased candy cost. So make sure you're farming up as many Dratini as you can during this event, because you will want to make sure you have a huge stockpile of Dratini candy. Now, of course, this event is also going to see the return of Ditto, which is a Pokemon that a lot of players need for very special research tasks, but it's a Pokemon that hasn't really been seen in Pokemon Go in the longest time. Yes, it is currently possible to pick up a Ditto in the wild, but it's incredibly rare. But during this event, it seems like it's going to be a lot more common, so make sure you fully utilize that to your advantage, because there's not going to be another opportunity to get a bunch of Ditto. Something else to keep in mind is that Ditto does have a perma boosted shiny rate, so if you want yourself a really solid trade chip, make sure you're going out and catching as many Pokemon as you can in hopes of picking up a couple of shiny Dittos. The following Pokemon are going to have a chance of transforming into Ditto during this event: Oddish, Coughing, Rhyhorn, and Goldeen. Now, since earlier I said that Oddish, Coughing, and Goldeen are trash tier Pokemon, you should still not ignore them, considering that they do have the possibility of becoming a Ditto. Alright, next, let's talk about what's going to be in raid battles during this event. In 1-star raids, we're going to have Staryu, Omanite, Kabuto, and in 3-star raids, we're going to have Chansey, Scyther, and Snorlax. Now, among all of these Pokemon, I would say that the 3-star raid bosses are actually going to be more relevant. Let's first talk about Chansey. So, it's been confirmed recently that this Pokemon is going to be featured in February of 2024's Community Day. That's going to be interesting because Chansey and Blissey have the possibilities of receiving some really good Community Day moves, which might actually make them relevant in PvP. And you can get a head start on that by getting yourself a bunch of high IV Chanseys. In case you didn't know, a rank 1 Chansey in the Go Battle League's Great League would be a 100% IV. So make sure you're going out and trying for those 100% IV Chanseys, and the best way you could do that is of course through raids. And when it comes to Snorlax and Scyther, both of those Pokemon can potentially be relevant in some ways, but because they are going to be having a much higher IV floor from raids, I don't think necessarily you should go after them if you're caring about PvP. Next, let's move on to the field research tasks. Most of these Pokemon are going to be spawning in the wild, but there's going to be a few that are going to be exclusive to field research tasks. The Pokemon that you could get as rewards from completing field research tasks include Bulbasaur, Charmander, Squirtle, Vulpix, Abra, Machop, Geodude, Ponyta, Ghastly, Krabby, and Voltorb. Now, amongst these, we've already talked about a bunch of them, but Abra, Machop, Geodude, and Ghastly are going to be a part of field research tasks, and I think all 4 of them can be relevant in some way. Abra does evolve into Alakazam, which is a top Mega Evolution, and of course, Machop evolves into Machamp, which is going to be relevant in PvP. And then both Geodude and Ghastly are also relevant in their own ways. So yeah, there's a lot you can go after here in field research tasks. Maybe you should complete a bunch of tasks during this event so that you could pick up a bunch of these Pokemon. So yeah, overall, a lot of interesting stuff in this event. Like, yeah, there's going to be a bunch of Kanto Pokemon, so if you do not have a completed Kanto Pokedex, this could be a great opportunity for you to get some of those holes filled. But I would say that Ditto is going to be one of the key Pokemon you should go after during this event. Considering that you do not often see events that feature Ditto, this is going to be a prime opportunity. A lot of players that I know still need to catch Dittos for their special research tasks, and yeah, I do think this event is going to be a key opportunity for you to complete some of them. And there's a lot of other Pokemon here that you do not often see, which I think are pretty relevant. I do think that when it comes to the Kanto starters, they're some of the biggest staples in Pokemon Go, and I think having a good opportunity to farm up their candies is always going to be a plus. And yeah, there's of course a lot of bonuses that are going to be really good during this event. I did cover a lot of those in a previous video, but just to recap, you're going to be getting 10 additional guaranteed lucky trades after this event starts. That is a bonus you do not want to ignore. It's not going to be exclusive to this event, so do not worry if you miss out on getting 10 guaranteed lucky trades, but it is definitely something worth doing after this event starts. There's also going to be 3 times the amount of experience for catching Pokemon during this event, so that's going to be pretty good for people who are still trying to level up. There's quite a lot of Pokemon here that are easy to catch, so yeah, this event could look to be really good if you're needing experience. But yeah, in any case, that's going to be it for this video. I just wanted to talk about every single Pokemon that will be possibly available during this event, and I would love to know your thoughts regarding all of these Pokemon. Is there a particular one that you're going to be farming up? Let me know what it is in the comments, and let's have a great discussion. Thank you so much for making it to this point in the video. If you ended up enjoying it and found it to be informative, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if it's your first time here, and don't forget that little bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And I want to give a quick shout out to all of my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support my channel in any way, big or small, then make sure you go and check out the links in the description below. For all my patrons, they get a permanent spot on my in-game friends list. So if you want to interact with me in some way in Pokemon Go, like with remote raids or the friendship system, then make sure you go and check out my Patreon. Also, if you want to support my channel without spending any money, you could always do so by following me on social media. My handle is @Jinsula, and I'm on these following platforms. Alright, and that's going to be it. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I'll catch you all later.